Good morning, it's Terry D-Lab Electronics. It'd take another snow day because we're really getting hit here in Michigan. So I decided it's a good time for me to take care of these two vibro champs that showed up. After that last video I did showing the increase in gain and performance, they're starting to come in the door, which is very cool. So this one comes from North Carolina and this guy came from California. The California unit is in pretty rough shape, so we're going to go ahead and start with that, and I'm going to give you guys a nice tech tip for installing the new front input jacks. So we're starting with the California unit. As I stated, she is pretty rough, missing the jewel for the power lamp. Everything inside looks pretty much original. It's got those old white Mallory caps. This one has a date of February 11th, 1972. Built by Richard Hand. Alright, let's take a look around the back side, because there is some things of interest. A few key things I want to point out before I get started. When the unit arrived, the treble pot was unwired, as you see it here. The wiring going to the volume pot was very loose. It actually kind of just fell right off the terminals, and the input jacks are the wrong type and they were incorrectly wired. This one here wasn't wired at all. There's a little 1 meg resistor there that was tagged to ground, and then they had a flying lead coming right off that to the 12AX7. I'm not sure what was going on there, but we're going to correct all of that. The other thing I noticed, if you look at the eyelet board, you see this guy is really raised up on this side. It's because there's screws underneath that have been replaced. They're too long and it put a lot of force on it, so I'm going to correct that. Filter cap, obviously death cap, and all the eyelet caps have to be replaced. Let's take a look topside. Alright, topside, everything looks original, thank God. This transformer has got a little bit of rust, maybe even heat damage. Okay, the filter cap is the original, and that's coming out. Tube sockets look great. I don't see any reason to change those. So what we're going to start with is the input jacks, then we'll recap it and test. Well, here's a tech tip on wiring up your 1/4 inch input jacks. You see they're buried down here in this area. It's pretty difficult to get to them. You got a 1 meg resistor hidden down here, and then 268K resistors. And of course this configuration has to be right spacing wise, or you're going to have a difficult time installing them. So I've came up with a foolproof method. So what you do is you mount your jacks on the front side of the amp in the same configuration as what you just saw on the rear. You leave everything loose, tie all your components together. Align it up the way you want it. And solder everything. And solder everything in place. And when you're done, you simply remove it from the front panel, flip it around, pop her in the back, and it will line up absolutely perfectly. Alright, I've got the new input jack assembly wired. Here's a close-up in case you guys are wondering what it should look like. I do get emails and people say, hey, I can't get these input jacks wired correctly. So there it is. Now that it's wired up, using the front 2 holes as a vise, you can flip the amp around. Remember, the 1 meg goes on channel 1. It'll slide right in there. So just install your lock washers on the rear, washers and nuts on the front. You're ready to wire it up, and she'll go right together as she did stock. I've got everything underside completed. Now we need to move on to replacing that main filter capacitor. If you have one of these old amps, there's no reason to even test them, guys. These amps are old enough to where you need a fresh engine to run it. So I always replace these old Mallories with the CE manufacturing caps. These are top quality. You can get them through CE distribution or Amplified Parts, and those guys got the best prices. Yeah, there's other sources, but you'll pay about $10 higher. This one averages about 40 bucks. Okay, we're about ready to test the VibroChamp. I've got all the wiring complete. The eyelet board has been recapped. My bias is now readjusted because she was running flaming hot like they all do. So now we have a 1K 5-watt bias resistor with a 100 microfarad 100 volt cap going to the cathode of the 6V6. Also did my little gain adjustment on the preamp. So where this thing will sing. So what you do is you change out the 200K plate resistors with 220K, and over here, buried under this wire, there's normally a 220K resistor, and I bumped that up to a 560K. That is the grid leak resistor that goes to the 6V6. Doing those two minor improvements will up your gain and bring the little VibroChamp to life. Okay, test time on little VibroChamp. This thing has a lot of gain now, which you normally don't get with these amps. So that little mod I showed you with the plate resistors, that's a hot ticket, okay? Let's check the vibrato. Oh yeah. She's working, guys. Alright, so the California unit is complete. It's time for me to move on to the one that came up from North Carolina. And behind me, I got about 6 more amps. It's going to be a busy day at D-Lab. Thanks for tuning in.